Hello, hello, hello everyone, and welcome to the Grand Finals for the KTaNE League Spring 2021 EFM Tournament. My name is Espic, and I'll be your commentator tonight. I'm actually alone in the commentator's booth. It's kind of lonely in here, not being without anyone to go commentate with, but that's besides the point. You guys are here to see what will probably be one of the best matches in the tournament so far. We have Procyon versus LW, or Legend Willet. On the red corner, we have Procyon, who has won the last season's EFM tournament, as well as being on the winning team that won this season's team tournament, along with last season's team tournament, and the team Stay Crazy, Stay Cruel. They have several notable EFMs to their name, notably the Praetorian, the fastest ever solve on the Centurion, and recently an EFM on Elias's One with Absolutely Everything bomb. It's 236 modules in 6 hours. In the blue corner, we have Legend Willet, which I'll refer to as Willet for the rest of this video. Much newer in the community, but definitely has proven to be one of the best players the community has seen so far. Over 100 EFMs on the Challenge Bomb spreadsheet, and nearly went undefeated completely in the round-robin brackets, losing the clean sweep by half a match point. So I can imagine it'll be a great match for both of these competitors, and we're about to get underway right now. But before then, I have some unfortunate news, and this might be a little bit of a spoiler, but I feel like it's important to mention anyway now rather than later. There was some discrepancies with one of our competitors in terms of submitting their runs. It turns out that one of these two competitors did not enable a vital mod used to run the tournament, Competitive Mode Logger. It is a required mod that you must have as a contestant, and this player did not have that enabled for this match or for the previous 3 matches this competitor partook in. And even though it doesn't affect the gameplay, it is necessary to have it on as an anti-cheat. So I hate to say this, but unfortunately Procyon has been disqualified from the tournament, and that automatically gives the win to Legend Willet. So I know no one wanted to see it like this. Unfortunate this happened, but you know, it's just the way things are sometimes. Not everything can be smooth sailing. On behalf of the league staff, as well as all the commentators, we hated to see this happen. Nobody wanted to say this. Nobody wanted to see this happen, but rules are rules, and they have to be followed. And the runs that Procyon were submitting were simply just not acceptable. So I'm sorry if that puts anyone in kind of a sour mood for the rest of this, but it is what it is, like I said. However, we will be showing the match anyway, just to see what would have happened if everything went fine. Maybe it didn't matter. Who knows? We're about to find out. So this is the module list for both of our competitors. Each competitor chose 15 different modules to choose from, and each competitor also got to veto away 3 modules from their opponent that they will not show up on any of the 3 bombs for this match. Procyon took away Willet's Great Void, Lousy Chess, and Ultra Cube, while Willet took away Procyon's Linkton's Ant, Quintuples, and Simon's Stores. For the first time in quite a while for the EFM competition, there are staff picks, and we are using the Week 1 staff picks, which are mostly focused around easier interactive modules, and each player was allowed to veto one of these staff picks as well. Willet vetoed Third Base, and Procyon vetoed Varicolored Squares. Otherwise, if there's anything I want to say about these lists, both very hard modules are in this. I stumbled. These lists are both stacked with pretty hard modules. For Procyon, we have stuff like Simon Sends, Tax Returns, Unfair Cipher, Life Iteration, and Cruel Countdown if you get unlucky. There's Willy, also is packed with stuff like 14, Cube, Reordered Keys, and Red Cipher. In fact, both of these players have Red Cipher, so that'll be an interesting interaction to see between the both of them. And of course, they haven't vetoed it from each other. That would be kind of silly. We're going to get started on the match right now. We're going to look at Procyon's Advantage Bomb first, so we'll be hearing their audio. Just remember that this is an unofficial match. We'll still try to find out who won this match anyway. But, you know, try not to think about it too much, even though the results are already locked in. We're going to start right now. So see, Procyon decided to play some nice lo-fi during their runs. And they're off. First bomb, we see a Red Cipher, an Unfair Cipher, a Cruel Countdown. That may have been from Procyon's list. It could have been from Willy's list as well. Procyon immediately going to Cruel Countdown. Looks like an easy one, just from the surface. On the backside there we have Crystal Maze. Willy's going to his right now. And I saw Reordered Keys and Tax Returns. Willy getting the first crystal there in Crystal Maze. What you need to do is get as many crystals as you need to go to the Crystal Dome to solve the module. Usually most contenders in this league have used 2 crystals to get 10 seconds. But it's not easy. It has 10 seconds to click 15 different tickets that are floating around. You know, you're bound to screw up eventually. Procyon solving that lasers now at 3 solves compared to Willy's 2. Willy moves on to 10 button color code there. A lot of blues there, actually. Procyon now finally taking a look at the edge work. Sometimes it's better to not get the edge work right away, as probably most of us are used to. Only get the edge work once you need it. I'm actually going to turn this up a little bit. That should be better. Procyon now looking at Crystal Maze, going to the Futuristic segment to get the first crystal, and going to Industrial to get the second. We saw Willy go to Medieval to get the second one. So, I don't know what the time difference will be between those 2 zones. Willy is still hacking away at that 10-button color code, the 2-stage module, which has caused many players grief throughout the years it's been out. Myself included. But solves it anyway, perfectly fine, and now moves on to Futuristic in Crystal Maze. Procyon now looking at Gridlock. What would normally be an interactive module in voice is instead looked at as still not interactive, but no need to completely go back and forth between 2 people. Now it's just going between back and forth in manuals. Procyon quickly solves it, moves on to Boolean Venn diagram, which I'm expecting they should solo. Indeed they do. Have a nice looking shape. And here's one of the most hypest moments in this league is to see a 2 crystal dome in this module. Let's see if they can do it. Got a few silver there. And there they have it. 15 golden tickets, 3 silver tickets. Not that great, but still got it. Moves on to Tax Returns as Willy moves on to Reordered Keys. Reordered Keys being one of the easier ordered keys. What you need to do is the keys are in a certain order, and you have to switch the keys around in such a way that they... Oh! You see a strike on Willy, and the module resets like most ordered keys variants do. They always reset on a strike, and they always multiple stages. Reordered is no exception, as it's 2 stages long, or you do basically the same thing. And that strike has also made Willy's timer drop a little bit faster, going now at an additional 25% of what it normally is. So Procyon still runs at 1 times speed for not striking. Procyon still looking at tax returns. Looks like they're about to submit it. And it gets it right. Now moving on to 10-button color code as well. He solves the first stage of reordered. Now has to do the second stage. Try to get those keys with values assigned aligned in a numerically ascending order without creating any illegal combinations, or permutations rather, similar to switches. Procyon still looking at that 10-button color code on the first stage, see if they can get the first stage correct. As Wille continues the second stage of reordered keys, and Procyon finishes first stage of 10-button color code, while Wille solves reordered keys, now has 4 solves to Procyon's 7. Still a large deficit that has to be made up here as he moves on to Red Cipher. Once again, a module on both of their lists. They're both really good at it. Red Cipher, of course, being in a series of 11 or 12 if you call Ultimate Cipher, a series of colored ciphers where the designs and reads of the modules are very similar, but they all use 3 different ciphers, and the ciphers that they use are dependent on the color of the module. Procyon, I think, was holding that answer for 10-button color code in the top there, as they move on to reordered keys. And this is now one of the most exciting points of any EFM competition, where both players are just staring at the bomb and focusing only on their notes. We are not able to actually show their notes, but they are taking their notes. I believe Wille has been uploading his runs to YouTube, and in those videos, he does provide the notes on one of the halves of his screen, and where the game is only taking up like a quarter of the screen. Actually, no. The notepad takes up a quarter, the game takes up a quarter, and the manuals take up a half section. It also kind of explains why the timer on Wille's side is a little bit blurry. Well, Procyon, I believe, only records their game, I want to say. Pretty sure they're using dual monitors. Harder to record that kind of stuff, as Wille quickly solves both lasers and a cruel countdown. Moves on to Crystal Maze. See if they can get 15 golden tickets in 10 seconds. Much smoother this time, getting no silver tickets at all, and actually getting an extra golden ticket in there. Procyon solving reorder, but Wille has caught up in the solve count, now 7-8. Of course, I think Wille was holding Red Cipher, and Procyon was holding 10-button color code. I'm not too sure what Procyon has left, but it's mostly all, actually, yeah, it's all on the front side. None of them have touched the unfair cipher yet, as Procyon now does. Procyon still has Red Cipher as well. Wille is now looking at tax returns. A lot of, not random, I wouldn't call them random, but a lot of arbitrary numbers. But I say arbitrary because they're mostly the same, and it's actually kind of, how should I put this? I can't think of the word. I had a word in mind, and I still have it. I don't know what it is. But it kind of makes it a little bit more safer, I guess, because if you play the module enough, then you know what numbers are gonna be in what places. And usually, if you get a number that you haven't seen before, it's probably some error in your reading or the diffuser's reading. If in a voice bomb. Willie is now entering tax returns, leaves it there, and holds that solve as well. But that answer, I believe, looked very similar to what Procyon had, so I'm pretty sure that's correct. And Willie now moving on to unfair cipher. Or no? Oh, looks like decided to solve gridlock there. I didn't realize Willie was holding that as well. You know, something I would rather have seen this, and hopefully we can see this for future seasons. In the post-production, how many modules that these players have held kind of give a better, more accurate representation of what they've solved. And of course, they don't have to be correct. They just have to know what models are being held. Because if they were correct, we can't treat them as a solve yet when they're still unsolved. We don't know if they're right. But judging by these players' skill, they're probably right. Hersion taking a look at red cipher now. Actually, both red and unfair ciphers use playfair ciphers, and red cipher uses more advanced versions of playfair ciphers, while unfair cipher uses multiple playfair ciphers. And you're encoding and decoding, where in red cipher you're only decoding. Hersion got the same word, submitting that, submitting 10-button color code, and Procyon takes the first bomb of this match with 440 remaining and 0 strikes. We're now going to shift over to Willie's audio as we'll see how he does when he did this bomb. Now, unfortunately, I have to say this reminder again, this is an unofficial match, so the results of this won't actually matter. We're still going to find out because why not? Why not we still have fun while we can? And Willie was not based enough to put lo-fi on while he was diffusing. And actually turned his music off. I mean, sometimes it is better to concentrate if you're not having any music, but I prefer to have the music on when I'm playing. I know some others do as well. Willie's not one of them. Now, about a minute and a half left on this timer, which should be around a minute to a minute 15. If I do the calculations quickly, I don't know them off the top of my head, but I think it's like 80%. Willie now with a minute left on the bomb timer, excuse me. Doesn't look like he'll solve this unless... Oh, what did he have sorted up? Oh, never mind. I stand corrected. Oh. Okay. I'm not too sure, but that looked like a YOLO at the end. Alright. Anyway, that concludes the first bomb. That was Procyon's advantage bomb. Wasn't any mistake or upset there. Procyon winning their own bomb, which is not actually as common as you might think throughout this league. There are plenty of contenders who have won the opponent's bombs and then lost their own, especially during some of the recorded or broadcasted matches. Anyway, we're going to take a little break here just to kind of give some plugging in some way. So, despite the unfortunate circumstances, if you are enjoying what you're seeing and you want to learn more and are interested about this game, then feel free to check out the KTaNE Discord server. Just type in discord.gg/KTaNE, where you could find us and several other people to play with and learn new modules. And maybe take on some challenge bombs if you're crazy. In there you should also find a link to the League Discord server. I'm not too sure what the channel name is. It is the directory channel. Wait, is it not there anymore? No, it's in community servers, excuse me. I didn't rehearse this part, but it's in community servers. Third from the top should be the KTaNE League server if you want to go see us here as well. And also, it'd be nice to go there if you want to join next season for either the team section or the EFM section. When will the next season be? I have no idea. But we hope that we see you there and hopefully see you participate, and maybe you will be in the finals too. I mean, Willie did it, although to be fair, Willie was sort of good. Anyway, I don't want to put any bias anywhere to any player. We're going to go on to the next match before I completely lose it and start spewing gibberish. So we're going to be hearing Willie's audio for the second bomb, and just to note that the bombs that we're showing you are not done in the same order that they did them in. I mean, they could have been, but they were not the same listed order in the little list of bombs that they were assigned to do. But regardless, we're going to see or hear Willie's audio. I'm not too sure if this is the neutral bomb or Willie's advantage. Let me check. Okay. No, this is the neutral bomb. Okay, so in Persian's advantage, Brown Persian had 7 modules off their list, 3 off of Willie's list, and 1 staff pick. Where in this bomb, though, each player has 5 modules from their list and then 1 staff pick. We have the Cube, Return of 10 button color code, and Simon Sense and Hypercube on the back. I don't remember what was on the front. I didn't get to take a look at it. I'll have to find out. Willie, immediately with 1 solve, and 2 solves now with both varicolored squares and Sweet Wall. Persian deciding to start at Simon Sense. He's using the magician way, according to St. Kilda fan, of just reading the colors as you see them on the module instead of getting a list of 20 different colors and then picking out each of the individual color channels from there. Persian making very quick work of that Sense. Kind of a longer one there in that green channel. Does get it right, and Willie moves very swiftly on the Hypercube. And Persian immediately solving Sweet Wall as well. Only 2 tiles, and both got them really quickly. Willie now looking at bridges off of Persian's list. One of those diffuser-only puzzle modules. Each of those symbols correspond to a number, and that number indicates how many bridges are connected to that node in the final solution. And you can have 2 bridges, like Willie's shown on the top there, that connect between the same node, but no more. So you can either have a bridge or a double bridge. And looks like there's some nodes that are above the viewing screen right now because Willie's so zoomed in, but they are there. Sorry about that. Willie moving on to Masu, kind of a similar puzzle in some way. It's diffuser only, and again, I'm able to show the top row of that. That should be fixed next time. Hopefully we do this. But Willie makes quick work of that, and Persian solves the Hypercube. We also see Bamboozling Button and Life Iteration on the front there as some harder modules that these players need to solve. Willie currently up ahead 5-3 right now as he looks at Sens and Persian solving bridges. That green LED on the top right near the status light means that there's only one unique solution to this puzzle. If it were red, then there are multiple solutions. Usually they don't differ by much, but just to show that, hey, there are multiple solutions, but not this time. There's only one unique solution to this puzzle. Willie also doing the magician method of getting 3 channels at once from Simon Sens just by looking at it. Very handy if you know Morse code, which is what those 3 color channels, red, green, and blue, are transmitting. Can you really call this a Simon module? It doesn't have multiple stages. I believe this module was actually supposed to be called Color Morse, but Color Morse was taken. Willie now entering in sends, getting same answer as what Procyon got. Now having 6 solves. Procyon looks like holding bridges, probably double checking it. We're just staring at it for so long. Now moves on to bamboozling button. A lot of information to get from bamboozling button. You need 4 out of those 5 displays on the top. Any additional punctuation, the color of the last 2, the color of the button, and the 2 texts on the button. Also, there's 2 stages, because why not? And speaking of 2-stage modules, Willie breezing through 10-button color code, making its return, as I've said earlier. And Procyon pressing the button down for the first time. There are 2 different presses you have to make on bamboozling button, and they involve the sum of the timer digits. Looks like Procyon may have gotten a little bit unlucky because looks like they're waiting for the timer to advance to the next minute just to get a higher sum of the seconds digits that's needed to solve that. That's my guess, at least. Willie moving on to the stat pick for this bomb. Simon's on first. An actual Simon module. Where you need to find the 3 flashes in a table. There are actually 8 tables to this. Find the color opposite and then press the buttons that correspond to the numbers that change each stage for 3 stages. I really like the way the module sounds. Very nice use of, I think that's a marimba or a vibraphone. Regardless, it sounds really nice. Willie now has 8 solves to Procyon's 4. So I know Procyon's been holding some solves, but they have to catch up now. They move on to life iteration. And got the most amount of iterations this module could generate of 4 iterations of Game of Life. That module can either have up to 2 to 4 different iterations, while the regular Game of Life module has just 1. They used to have multiple, but that got changed a long time ago. And from what it looks, it doesn't look like this Game of Life would be that bad. I'm not an expert on it, but that's just what I'm seeing from a visual stance. I could be wrong. Willie now finishing the first stage of bamboozling button. Procyon looks like they're about to submit life iteration. It looks like just an upside down L. Told you it was easy. Procyon now moving on to varicolored squares. Now, varicolored squares appeared both on Willie's list and on the staff picks list. Procyon decided to veto the varicolored wave from the staff picks, but probably had other models in Willie's list that were too valuable to veto rather than varicolored squares, so they had to deal with it in some way. There is no escape. Looks like they don't have that many. They aren't having many problems on it as they quickly solve it, and a lot of these quicker models have Procyon catch up to Willie in some way, now 7 to 9, as they both look at the cube. At one point, the cube was the hardest module ever made, and it was a manual challenge on top of that. Cube has a lot of information that you need to give out. It's even more than bamboozling button. There are 6 cube rotations. You need to notate all of those. You need to notate the numbers on each of those faces and in a specific order. Those 4 wire colors, those 8 symbols on the left and bottom displays, the colors of those square buttons, and the labels of those square buttons, as well as that button on the bottom left there. And on top of that, it's long. A lot of the stage, there's a little bit of delay between entering the 8 stages for this module, as Procyon immediately starts entering the first stage, and so does Willie. And you get to hear the wonderful sounds of the cube beeping. Oh, strike for Willie there on that first stage. There's quite a bit that can go wrong here. It's not easy to double check where your mistake is. Now you can easily pinpoint where it might be, but finding where it is exactly isn't easy, because it's like, did I get a cube digit wrong? Did I get a symbol wrong? Did I get a cube face digit wrong? Did I use the wrong wires? Because even though you get the wires information in a certain order, you have to use a different order when doing the calculations to solve the mathematical cipher that this module presents. Procyon moving on to, I believe, stage 6 of 8 of the cube, working out very smoothly. Getting the 6th stage right now onto the 7th stage. Will I try the first stage again? Let's see if he can get it right. And he does. Corrected his mistake, and now hopefully should breeze right through the rest of the 7 stages. Procyon now on the last stage of cube, where it's a little bit different, where you have to, instead of having a list of buttons to press, you have a list of buttons to not press. Gets it right anyway. Stages 7 and 8 are some of the easier stages to calculate, as they only need 2 pieces of information each, only the symbols. Procyon moving on to 10 button color code. 8 to 9, but I don't remember actually what has been held so far by either of these 2 layers, so that might be different. Can't be that much different because they're nearing the end for both of them. Speaking of the end, Will A entering the 7th stage for cube, only has 1 more after this. Now on to the 8th stage, and has life iteration left as the only module. Definitely didn't hold this. Oh. I forgot. That is technically a viable strategy there. Kind of a little bit of a flaw. I wouldn't say a flaw, but an exploit in that design for life iteration. This also applies to Game of Life Simple and Game of Life Cruel as well, where it'll always give you the answer if you submit the wrong answer. And fortunate enough, there was only 4 white tiles left. So Will A was easily able to solve that, and with that, Procyon's timer is now much lower, not much lower, but now is lower than Will A's finished timer. So Will A takes the second bomb, and the match is now tied 1-1. We've switched back to Procyon's audio to see how they finish the bomb. With Bridges, which I'm pretty sure they're holding, and Simon's on first, which they have not touched yet. And of course, we're hearing that lovely lo-fi again. Not really able to hear the game as much, but I still think Simon's on first is one of the prettier sounds of any Simon module. It actually used to be too loud at one point and had to get turned down. It's at a fair volume now, and honestly, although the background looks a little bit messy, it still is a pretty cool module. Procyon solving that, and then solving Bridges, solving the bomb with 2 minutes and 29 seconds remaining. Not as fast as Will A though, so unfortunately it didn't win this bomb. So this next bomb that we'll be showing you is Will A's advantage bomb. So 7 modules off his list, 3 off Procyon's list, and then 1 staff pick. Before we get started, big thanks to everyone involved in this league. Huge thanks to Elias for hosting a successful, quote-unquote, successful season. I mean, it wasn't his fault that this happened, but another successful season of the league. Big thanks to all of the TDs and league staff for generating the bombs and validating on the modules and helping Elias with the whole show. And big thanks you to all the commentators who are able to commentate these matches. And a huge thank you to all the contestants as well, both in the team and EFM sections for this league. And I don't know how you guys are feeling, but despite the unfortunate circumstances, I'm still pretty happy with how this match is going on, and I'm going to lose myself in rambling again if I don't stop. So we're just going to keep going with the third bomb, Willie's advantage bomb. And whoever wins this wins the match. But only the match, not the tournament, unfortunately. Remember, this is still an unofficial match due to unfortunate accidental circumstances. And we're going to play it out because we love you guys and we know you want your finals match. And to get it off our belts as well. Anyway, hearing Procyon's audio again, and immediately you see Disability, Slogden Bomb, and Willie's Boss 14 on that side of the bomb. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, but both players could have chosen a boss module to put on their list, but only one boss module. Procyon didn't select a boss module, while Willie has selected a boss module, and 14 is their choice. 14 is a pretty hard forget module, where you have to get 3 different alphanumeric characters in 3 different color channels, kind of similar to Sens with Morse code, except they are letters instead, and they could be inverted, and the actual diagrams of letters are kind of awkward. Fortunately, they're in the manual, though. For a while, they weren't. So if you take a look there, we see stage 0. You need to note down that green LED there, as well as the 4 letters. So if the red channel is an X-ray, the green channel is, I believe, that is an inverted Bravo, and the blue channel is a 6. Now, I could be wrong with that. I don't do this module, but that's my best guess. And like I said, it's a forget module, so you have to note down that every single stage. Procyon actually had this on their list last season, but it was mostly used as a module you just ignore. Not this time, though. As the moment I saw Willie's qualifier bomb, I knew that it's going to be having a much different role this time than it did last season. Procyon solving Disability, which is kind of interesting puzzle there. What we have to do there is enter a number so that the currently entered number is divisible by the position that corresponds to the number of digits entered. For example, a 1-digit number must be divisible by the first digit in reading order in that keypad, and a 2-digit number must be divisible by the second digit in that 9-digit keypad, and each number in that keypad can only be used once. Willie makes quick work of passport control. Very easy module, as oftentimes it only needs the last digit of the serial number. But there are some tricky gotcha rules that could cause strikes if you're not careful enough or don't look for them. Willie moving to button sequence, the staff pick for this bomb, and Procyon solving Simon Says. Hopefully we don't need to put a flashing light warning, but I don't think it's that severe. Procyon moving on to Slogden Bomb, and I swear, if Elias did that 69 on purpose, I shouldn't be surprised. He made a broken guitar chords say Alpha Sus in the team finals. What more can this mad lad do? Willie quickly solving button sequence, now moves back to 14 for the 5th stage, technically the 6th stage, since it starts with stage 0. Unlike other forget models like Forget Me Not that start with stage 1, this Procyon solves Slogden Bomb. Procyon now looking at Hypercube, making its return, and Willie looking at Bamboozling Button, also making its return. not really returned, since the last bomb they did was technically the third bomb in order. Actually, you know what I said? Oh, that was the music. I heard something for a second. When I said earlier that players could choose the order, I actually lied. Unfair Cipher, the way with the IDs actually makes it where you have to do the bombs in a certain order. And this applied to any EFM player or team that has Unfair Cipher on their list or was facing an opponent who has it on their list. So I believe the order that we're showing you this was 2-3-1. Starting with Procyon's advantage, then the neutral, then Willay's advantage. I think the players actually got swapped around in editing because they were going to start with Procyon's advantage bomb. Also, I forgot to shout out this person earlier, but shout outs to Etin, I think that's how you say name, for editing all of these, well, not all of them, but editing most of these matches, these commentate. Kind of, what's the word here? Underrated, underspoken? I don't know. I don't think it gets enough credit. It definitely deserves more credit than they get. Both currently tied at 5 solves right now. Procyon looking at Bamboozling Button, and Willay looking at the Disability. Procyon solving the first stage of Bamboozling Button with Willay, solving the second stage, now has 6 solves. Take a look at the next stage for 14. And see where they go to next. They're going back to the Disability. So what I was saying earlier, so 6 must be divisible by 6, and then 64, because 2 digits, must be divisible by 8, because of the second digit in that keypad. I'm sorry, Yaba, but you explained it wrong last time. I just had to say that. Procyon moving over to Sweet Wall. And it looks like it's only a 1-tile solution. And it's pretty easy because you don't know how many tiles are valid in a Sweet Wall. It could be 1, it could be all of them. And it could be none of them, in fact. And if it was none of them, you just click a random square and it solves. But that can still be very frightening, because you don't know if you messed up or not. Willay now moving over to Sens. Procyon moving over to Passport Control. And makes quick work of Passport Control. Not too sure what they have left, both on the front side. I have Button Sequence and Red Cipher left. Willay has entered white preemptively on Simon Sens, which is a valid move. Basically, if you want to solve the module, then all valid answers start with white. Well, not all valid answers, but the module will always spawn a valid answer that starts with white. So it's very safe to just press white in hopes that it solves, because it could be all echo, being 3 E's, only represented by a single dot in Morse code. And remember when I said that this module transmits in Morse code in 3 different channels? You have to do the same thing back. Procyon solving Button Sequence has 9 solves, only has Red Cipher left before they start 14. Willay has 8 solves now, has 2 more modules to solve before he can start solving 14. I believe Willay also hasn't looked at Red Cipher yet. And I don't know what else. Slog. There you go. Looks like Procyon has the upper hand right now because they have solved Slog and neither of them have solved Red Cipher yet. Slogdenbaum being another one of those mathematical puzzles. Each of those numbers corresponds to a game worth that many points, and each game is corresponding to different categories, whether it be an oddball, the player is guaranteed to lose, the player being the person on the left there, or the player, did I say player loses? Or once the player wins, player loses, and there's an oddball which could go either way. And oftentimes you have to use the oddballs to determine the final score for them, which is just above their games. Perseon now solving red cipher, only has 14 left, which has now entered its input mode. As Willie now looks at red cipher, probably is holding that Slogden bomb. Perseon solving the 14, or not solving, but entering the solution. Let's see if it's correct. Again, has to write 3 alphanumeric characters and 3 different color channels. Drum roll. And it's correct. Perseon solves this bomb and wins this match. That is pretty bittersweet, if you ask me. It's hard to look at that. Due to their unfortunate disqualification from the tournament. Really sucks. But, you know, mistakes happen. They happen to the best of us. Both of these players are winners, in my opinion, and they both should be celebrated as winners of the 2 winners of the tournament if we can. Of course, Will A is the official winner, but you know, we could still be happy for both of them. Anyway, Will A now moving on to submitting 14 for themselves. Take a little bit different approach. Hopefully they have the same answer. Looks like there's some corrections being made to the input. In the meantime... Oh, that was quick. Oh, I'm like, what? It felt different. Must have got in some different stages from the 14 than Perseon did. Just a result of some RNG discrepancies with some of those modules for the league, and unfortunately 14 was one of them, but they still got the correct answer at the end there. So as a result of this unofficial match, Perseon wins 2-1. Like we said, however, Will A does take the win here for this season of the EFM competition. And with that, that's all I have to say. I don't want to ramble for any longer, so thank you all for watching this premiere. Hope to see you guys next season. And as always, stay crazy and stay cool.